Assassin's Creed Rogue is underrated, and I'll tell you why for these reasons. First, it's the only Assassin's Creed game in the entire series to focus on a Templar character. Second, it explores the core beliefs of the Assassin's Brotherhoods and makes you question them to the heart of your soul. After all, it's warning, spoilers ahead. After all, it's not as if sending your best assassin to the city of Lisbon to infiltrate an Isu Temple Underground and not touching a precursor artefact isn't the dumbest idea in the world, then pray tell me what is. And finally, it's a great game with gameplay that will keep you interested to play for long hours, because it's Black Flag Part 2, except not in a warm sunny Caribbean with lots of treasure to find and pirates to fight. Oh no. So let's begin as to why it's an underrated title and why you need to try this game no matter what. Many people would say don't play Assassin's Creed Rogue, it's really bad. Many people will say it's not a great game. I say it's a mixed bag. It can be a fun game when you want it to be, and if you let go of a few illusions, a few hesitations, this game can be really rewarding in so many ways. At least it's the only Assassin's Creed game that I can remember that allows you to play a Templar, but if not, correct me. This is my humble video essay, and let's begin. But first, gameplay. Assassin's Creed Rogue would never be revolutionary in its style of combat because it's Black Flag but improved. There's the addition of new weapons, smoke bombs, berserk darts, shrapnel grenades, and so much more. And while the world may be barren, it is beautifully rendered so that even when you sail through the sunlit oceans of the cold North Atlantic, go and fight ships, and go and steal loot, you'll be stunned at the beauty this game can achieve, even though it was made for the last generation. And all this footage I recorded on the Xbox Series S. It is barren, but you can get a lot of gold, you can go and hunt down for shanties, you can liberate ships of war, you can go and attack bounty ships, you can go and do lots of things. Because even though the combat, even though everything is the same as Black Flag, it just makes you want to play more. Because if we look at combat, you can use firecracker darts, launch grenades, and as I've said, use smoke bombs whenever you get into a big difficult fight. But I love smoke bombs, I love shrapnel grenades, I love sleep grenades, but I also love berserk darts, because that really helps. But you can still tell that Black Flag's elements still remain. So the same NPC guards, maybe a few changes here and there, the same assassination styles and combat styles, but the main thing is say that when you enter a city, you will definitely feel whispers, and those whispers will be assassins trying to come and hunt you. And that's something I don't think has been attempted before in other Assassin's Creed games, in the sense that you are being hunted by the assassin. In the Assassin's Creed games, you play as the assassin where you hunt other people. So it's nice to be on the other side, where you are being hunted and where you have to fight them. And that's when the gameplay combat becomes a bit difficult. It becomes difficult because it's not satisfying, because you're playing a former assassin that knows how to fight XYZ. And therefore, you don't fully play as a Templar character. You don't figure out strategies and different styles of combat to fight against stealth or to fight against assassins in this game. In fact, let me say this. This is the last, at least true, proper Assassin's Creed game that put an emphasis on parkour, that put an emphasis on stealth and hiding and using weapons to go down and hunt. It was a very stealth-focused game. So if you want to experience the full Assassin's Creed experience, I say Rogue is definitely up there on that list, but had this game had more time, we would have had a superior game to Unity. I think we would have had a slightly bigger open world, not too big, but slightly larger, more activities to do than just chasing shanties or intercepting pigeons to unlock new artifacts or new weapons or new outfits. And although I love the feature, I love loot chesting, it was great, and you could upgrade parts in New York to increase your revenue. Those elements were fantastic. I think those were great, and they added a lot more variety. But at some point you will get tired of it and you say, okay, fine, now what other Assassin's Creed game do I play? But there's so much jam-packed within this 6-hour game that you don't feel you will have completed everything until you've finished every single thing on the checklist. It isn't to say, however, that the naval combat isn't anything that repetitive, but here's the thing, I just started playing the naval combat, and as soon as I became the Templars, as soon as I got out of the Assassin Brotherhood, basically the homicidal circus that it is, I found myself wanting to upgrade the Morrigan. I wanted to upgrade and hunt down ships, become a master in naval combat, also while trying to overtake these big massive man of war ships. Somehow Rogue just pulled me in and I just kept on playing, just attacking ship after ship, destroying ships, looting and trying to run away from bounty hunters. It convinced you in the illusion that you're now the Templar, now fighting the French and the Assassins. And to loot and attack stronger ships, it becomes an incentive. The only other thing is that some of the biggest naval battles happen in the 7 Years' War. You really don't get to fight in them, but taking down forts, going and hunting, I think that's all great. You know, it's all awesome, it's all fun and unique. And still, I've been playing this game. This game is a mixed bag because I'll explain that in the story aspect. Much else apart from the unique aspect being that you have to fight assassins, but you're still limited because you're fighting the same NPCs, and there's no difference between the Templar and Assassin. Really, you are the only Templar. The other Templar characters just help you and aid you in the story. You can't even recruit a gang of Templars to help take New York, like you could do with the Rooks in Syndicate. There's not even cinematic cutscenes of Hope controlling most of the gangs within New York itself. But these are assassins, and assassins will infiltrate the underworld no matter what. And I just don't feel that there isn't much here. So I felt that AC Rogue is a game with a fresh coat of paint, but the soundtrack and the ambience just give it that freshness. But now let's just go to the story. And the main element of the story is freedom versus the organized chaos that follows it. For example, the assassins help the French against the British in the colonies, but they export slaves from Haiti, and they don't mind that, something which Shay himself is opposed to, while Liam sees it as a necessary evil to further their progress against the Templars. And of course, the Templar characters in this game tend to give a lot of witty statements, not to mess with the precursor box at the same time, if we're looking at the early stages of the story. And I will still say there are minor spoilers here and there, so I'm trying to contain as much of the story as much as I can, so that when you experience it, you play it, and you tell me what you think. However, since the story was 6 hours short, many starting Templar characters act as fillers. It's only when you get to the later stages of the story do they tend to become a bit richer, with Christopher Gist, with Hatham, and Colonel Monroe. It's really only when you further progress into it that you will begin to form that attachment. If anything, Shay's mentors become the go-to how to fill in Shay's backstory while not giving them enough time either. It's really the Templar mentors that really shine through instead. So it is a mixed bag. In some moments the story can be powerful and emotional. You would see Shay going to Lisbon and experiencing the most tragic earthquake known to mankind, because that really shattered his belief in the assassins when Achilles dismissed it. And honestly, there's big major spoilers here, so let's go. I mean, sure, I dismissed destroying a city of 1 million people as congratulations, because the assassins are basically a homicidal circus that believe that if they must save this world, they must grab these precursor artifacts. And if it means the sacrifice of millions of innocent people, so be it. Because this isn't the first time this has happened. Assassins have meddled with various precursor boxes and they've destroyed entire cities. And as Say says, who are the assassins after all to decide who to destroy next? In other parts, after Shay's exiles, we see how the Templars or the Colonel Monroe attempt to recruit Shay. They don't try and force. They basically show Shay a new perspective. A new perspective that the assassins are wrong. And Colonel Monroe is really one of the great Templar characters in this game. If anything, he represents the ideal of what it means to be an actual Templar, because he doesn't chase war. He wants good for the inhabitants of New York, and he convinces Shay to basically help him fight those assassins who are ruining it, who are on the side of the French. And he wants those colonies to be safe, prosperous, and developed. But as he says, money is a means to an end, not an end to the war, and preserve and protect against chaos. It was a shame, because I think he was literally Yusuf Tazim. He was that character that once you grow an attachment to him, it becomes impossible to not remove it. You really want Colonel Monroe on your side. And I do think that his stay in this game is kind of different, to say the least. However, if it was one thing, it was Monroe, Hatham, and Christopher Gist. And Christopher Gist, he says some of the most oddest dialogue, he says some of the best dialogue, but he is a really great companion. In fact, he's much better than Liam. And while I couldn't recall much footage of Hatham at all, but Hatham is great in this game. He has ruthlessness, he is determined. If anything that brought down the assassins, Haytham used Shay to go against it. Shay was that blunt tool. But here's the main thing. The Templars are opposed to the assassins because the assassins want to use poisonous gases to use against colonial authorities. But there is also another aspect. Shay never wanted to kill his former mentors. But his mentors, his assassin mentors, are mad. They're like, alright, go and kill us. That's no problem. But the assassins forced his hand. They are the ones that got corrupted. They didn't see war as a means of an end. They saw war as a continuation of fighting against the Templar Order. If they were to save this world, they would destroy it. Even Las Assure knew that they were going to come after Shay Patrick Cormac. But do you know what the other disappointing aspect about this game is? And the fact is that the story's serious undertones make sense. You've seen the advancement of French and British incursions in the colonies, and using those precursor boxes to gain control of humanity and to monitor them. Shay defected from the French to the British and hunted down his former mentors who seemed doomed enough and crazy to know what they were doing was wrong. While this makes sense, you can tell that some parts of the story are rushed, but some parts have some really good dialogue illustrating some of the historical context and the background. Some of the NPC conversations are really good as well, but there's also cliche dialogue in other areas. Now every time you try to hear Shay going, I'll make my own luck, which was perhaps meant to be some sort of catchy phrase line, it went a bit haywire because 6 hours of a story is not going to be enough to really introduce that type of dialogue. Now if that dialogue was rewritten 2, 3, 4 times, yeah, then it would make sense. But look, the fact is that Ubisoft didn't pay enough attention to this game, which sucks, as it was a last-gen title and really there wasn't much effort put into that marketing versus marketing unity. And it's ironic because I'm going to say something, and spoilers again. The game's ended moments connect with AC Unity in more ways than you understand, and it is an absolute crime. And it is an absolute crime shame that other Templar and Assassin characters just didn't get enough screen time. As a result, as I've said, the story feels a bit rushed. But you know what the sad point is? I remember listening to a podcast, and I'll link that podcast down below, on how the voice actors for Rogue had to advertise this game. And the main voice actor for this game had to appear at a convention maybe within 3 months of the game's release with no big budget support. And the last time I heard about him is he was working as a waiter in a restaurant and there's nothing else. Like, this was a big video game project. I've no doubt he was paid really well for it. Now this isn't a slight criticism against Ubisoft. It's me basically saying, you know what, we need Assassin's Creed Rogue 2. We need that game to come back. And we need a voice actor to start getting a big budget game again. Because he was great. Sure, his accent was bad and it wasn't the greatest of Irish accents that you've heard. But you can tell the voice actor put a lot of oomph and personality. Many of the voice actors really did a great job in getting you immersed. Now for some people will say, no, it's not a great game, isn't that great, there's nothing else about it, its dialogue isn't great, its soundtrack isn't great. But so what? It's a game that immersed me into it. I got immersed into all the voice acting, whether it was bad, whether it was good. And if you want to complain about bad voice acting, look at Valhalla and look at Odyssey. Bad voice acting has been in Assassin's Creed for an eternity. Good voice acting has also been there as well. This is a mixed bag. Assassin's Creed Rogue is a game where it ultimately shows how the Templars destroyed the Assassin Brotherhood and what led to the events of Assassin's Creed 3 basically. And as I've said, now I've repeated myself many times about spoilers, but don't click on this video if you don't want to be spoiled. At the same time, as we come to the end of this video, it's just this. Assassin's Creed Rogue was an underrated title that should have got more marketing, that should have got a bigger budget, that should have been more than just Black Flag 2.0. It should have included more of the Templar philosophy. It should have included more side characters, more quests. And in fact, if they remaster Shay Patrick Cormac's game, if they remake this game, I would absolutely love it. Because if they're making Black Flag, they should make Assassin's Creed Rogue again. And they should give it a more stronger, serious tone. Because there are elements of serious tones. There are elements of historical reality. There's great use of historical characters. There's great use of how the assassins and the French... there's great use of how the assassins and the British are designing new weapons to fight against each other with this poisonous bio-warfare. There's all sorts of great elements. And we never got Shay in Unity, which was the most ironic thing ever. The only thing we got Shay of was Arnold just wearing Shay's costume. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. And I really like this game. I love the soundtrack. I love absolutely everything about it. Because ultimately it's Chase Patrick Cormac's voice actor that really immersed me into the game. And I'm playing his story. I get immersed and pretend belief that I'm the Templar, I'm fighting the assassins. But there's not much else. And I haven't mentioned Adewale, I haven't mentioned all the other characters because I don't want to go too much in depth. The main thing is, this game is underrated. If you haven't tried it, it's really the only game that lets you play as a Templar and go and fight in these big massive ship battles and stuff. There isn't much else that I could say. But it's a great game with a great story. If you like it, you might not like it. For me, it's a mixed bag, as I've said. I think it's really great. So, don't forget to leave a like, share, comment and subscribe. And stay tuned for more Assassin's Creed video content where I keep talking about some of the most underrated titles, some of the new epic titles. In fact, I will be discussing more of this content as we go further along this journey.